Between now and Election Day, we are going to be interviewing all of the major candidates on the ballot for major offices here in Maine. With us tonight on 207 is Republican candidate in Maine's 2nd District congressional race, Bruce Poliquin. Thanks so much for coming in.
Glad to be here.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So, you served in Congress once before. The last time you ran for this position back in 2019, you were unsuccessful. Why are you now once again running for Congress in Maine's 2nd District?
Because our state and our country's in deep trouble, Samantha. We have the highest inflation in 40 years because of all this government spending trillions of dollars that is either borrowed or printed, and that drives up inflation and it hurts our families. We also have the highest gasoline and diesel and heating oil prices that we've had this year in my lifetime. It used to be $2 a gallon for heating oil and $2 for gas, and now it's close to $4 or $5 a gallon. And that's because this agenda run by Mr. Biden is starting to shut down our energy supplies of heating oil, gasoline is driving up the price. And thirdly, is because of our open border with Mexico. You know, this border's been open for almost 2 years. So now we have a few million people that have come into this country illegally. We don't know who they are. They're allowed to stay for the most part. We have a flood of fentanyl that's coming into our country, including here in Maine, that's killing our kids. My goal is to help my state, help my country. I've been in the business community for 40 years. I've come out of semi-retirement to do this because we need to make a change. We don't make a change, all these problems get worse.
You mentioned quite a few things, one of them being inflation. What is one thing you would do to address inflation?
Stop this trillions of dollars of off-budget spending. You know, Mr. Golden votes 87% of the time, my opponent, 87% of the time with Mr. Biden. So they're all part of this very extreme agenda. And all of this spending that we don't have is printed or borrowed. That drives up inflation. What I would do is work with a new common sense American agenda, American majority, Republicans and Democrats, whoever will work with us to stop this crazy spending. That will start bringing down inflation.
So you mentioned border security. I think you've said in the past that you want to secure the border. What would that piece of legislation look like to you?
Well, first thing we need to do is we need to enforce our immigration laws. We're not doing that now. For example, we need to make sure individuals who are applying for asylum stay in Mexico, not allow them to come over and invite them to come over illegally and then allow them to stay. Then it takes a year or so for their hearings to happen, and then we lose them. We don't know where in the dickens they are. We need to make sure those folks stay in Mexico instead of coming to America and being released when they apply for asylum. Second of all, we need to finish construction of the border wall. Last January, Samantha, I went down to the border. I met with our Border Patrol agents. I met with local sheriffs along the border. I saw the wall that is not finished. We need to finish that, enforce our border, enforce security. And I'll tell you, Mr. Golden, to my understanding, has never been to the border, or he hasn't during this campaign. He needs to go down there and meet with the Border Patrol agents. I got to tell you a story I'll never forget my rest of my life. We were at the Greek festival in Lewiston a couple months ago. And it was a wonderful celebration with people enjoying their food under a big tent. And a wonderful lady I started talking with was working on the tables, and we just started up a conversation. I said, "Where do you live?" She pointed to the parking lot. She said, "I live in my car with my 2 cats." I said, "You can't do this. You've got to go talk to the housing authority folks." She said, "Bruce, I did. I was at the top of the list to receive an apartment. I got bumped down the list because folks have come in this country illegally." That is wrong, Samantha. I don't care what someone's politics are. I make no apologies. Stand up for America first, Maine first. That's where I'm running. Secure the border. That hasn't been done. It's wide open now for almost 2 years.
Just to touch on the subject of securing and closing the border, it's my understanding, though,
I didn't say close the border. I said secure the border to make sure we know who's coming in. There's an orderly process, and we can deny people who want to come in for asylum reasons and stay in Mexico until we process their paperwork.
I misspoke then. I believe you said you want to finish the wall then. It's my understanding.
That's part of the securing the border.
It's my understanding, though, that we can't finish the wall because of private and public land, so there will always be gaps.
Well, there is 250 miles left of the border wall to be secured. We can do that. When I was serving in Congress, we didn't have this problem. Now, we've always had a problem with the Mexican border, don't get me wrong, but our border when I was serving was the most secure border in 30 years. Now, when you have this very extreme agenda being promoted by Mr. Biden and Mr. Golden, who votes for Mr. Biden 87% of the time, they're inviting everybody to come in here illegally and allowed to stay. We need to secure that border, enforce our immigration laws, and I will.
Another contentious issue that is facing a lot of folks in our country since the overturning of Roe v. Wade is the issue of abortion. If a bill supporting a ban on abortion came to the House, would you support it?
No, we already have a law in Maine on the books. It's been here for 30 years that allows abortion until viability. I trust the people of Maine. The people of Maine have made that decision. Now, the Supreme Court has decided to take that issue out of the courts and give it back to we the people in the states. Now, I will say the following, is that I'm pro-life. I'm proud of that. I always stand up for life and religious liberties. However, I also trust the people of Maine. They've made that decision. I'll tell you what I disagree with. Jared Golden has voted on 2 occasions for a bill that's passed the House but not the Senate that allows abortion until birth because it removes all state restrictions. So it would be a national law, wipes out all state preferences, and allows abortion until birth, paid by taxpayer dollars. That's very extreme. That does not reflect my values and certainly not the values of the folks I want to represent.
But just to clarify, if a bill did come to the House that supported a ban on abortion, would you support it, yes or no?
I support what the state of Maine has done. And we don't need to change that. We don't need a federal ban on abortion because it's now in the hands of the states. The people of the state of Maine have spoken. They allow abortion until viability. I see no reason why a bunch of politicians or bureaucrats should tell the people of Maine what to do when it comes to this issue and many others.
We're going to leave it on that note. Thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
coming into the studio and chatting with us. Bruce Poliquin, running for Congress in Maine's 2nd District. If you want to learn more about his campaign, just head to the 207 section of our website or our mobile app. Stay with us. We're back with more 207 right after this.